Today I wanted to share with you a very important insight for 2024. During the holidays, I sat, meditated, asked for inspiration, asked for an insight that would be very pertinent to each one of us as we enter a very challenging era ahead of us. And this 2024 is actually what I recognize is it's a year of turbulence, challenge, opportunity, and growth, all combined in one melting pot, which is quite interesting. And what we get from this pot depends on what we put into it, which we are going to talk about today. What do we put into it? And also how we nurture it. And I would like to start by sharing an allegoric experience that projects a foundational mindset for 2024 and beyond. And this allegory is called The Man in the Mist. And at the dawn of the new year, I took a daybreak walk along the shores of a mist-covered ocean. The water was calm, and the waves broke over the sand with tiny, gentle ripples. The air was cool, fresh, and almost still. A little while later, the sun began to break through the mist, revealing the glowing silhouette of a man, almost the same height as me. He stood still before me and gazed deep into my soul, awakening my being with his loving warmth. "I am self," he said, "and you exist in me." So I replied, "If you are self, then who am I?" I asked. And he said, "You are consciousness that perceives the world for a short while, and you experience what you create." I'll repeat that. He says, "You are consciousness that perceives the world for a short while, and you experience what you create." What a profound message for the beginning of the year. Many of us wonder how best to understand consciousness, and let's explore his message and let's see how it translates into practical steps that we should all consider. So, what is consciousness? Now, in simple terms, consciousness is a combination of our thoughts, perceptions, attitudes, emotions, memories, intelligence, and everything that makes up our reality. That is consciousness. So in essence, we are our consciousness. And according to the man in the mist, that is all we are. And we are here for a short period of time, just as a consciousness. And he also adds that every experience we have is our own creation, be it direct or indirect, making each one of us responsible for the way our world is shaped. We are responsible for the way our world has been in the past, the way it is today, and what it will be in the future. It's our responsibility. Therefore, it is essential that we foster a consciousness, our consciousness, with far greater awareness and care than we may have done to date. While we are all very careful about who we invite into our home, most of us have probably been completely oblivious to who and what we permit into our consciousness, despite the fact that it represents our very identity. Yet we let so much in, and yet it's more important to us than anything else. Logic would suggest that consciousness deserved to be kept more protected, private, and nurtured than even our physical home. How could we have missed such a fundamental precept? And this brings us to the question, how does one translate the message of the man in the mist into practice. So I'm going to share with you 6 pillars to consider for now and implementation in 2024 and beyond, but 6 fundamental pillars. What are they? The first pillar is called the robust filter. Now, my dear friends, we are constantly bombarded with negativity in its crudest form through the news and social media. Our consciousness is directly and subliminally influenced and manipulated, often leaving us, for example, sad, angry, deceived, and fearful, and more. We are also consistently pushed content that encourages unnecessary and excess consumption. So that's where we find ourselves in. We are in receive mode that's directly affecting our consciousness. Therefore, our first resolution should be to preserve and protect our consciousness by sharply filtering what we take on board. It behooves us to carefully research all the information we are exposed to and then make our own decisions on what we should and should not internalize, because this is the key. We got to stop taking in everything that comes our way and become what comes our way. Our consciousness is our only true identity, our only true reality. More important than our own home, we must learn to protect it, and we must learn to cultivate it in a positive way. Now, as a side point, which is relevant to this subject, our smart gadgets actually are smarter than they should be for us. I mean, I remember a few months back, I was having a meeting with someone, and he was talking to me about a project he was doing in the mining industry. And as we were talking, ads began to appear on my phone for mining investments, stockbrokers who trade mining shares. I'm looking, going, I'm talking to him, and my phone has already started giving me ads. I looked, and of course my personal assistant, the Siri, or we use Bixby or whatever, was on. It was listening to what I was saying, and I was being offered content. I switched it off, and it stopped. But my friend who I was talking to, and he said, look, it'll stop because you've turned this thing off, but rest assured you will still get pushed content even beyond that. So our gadgets are extremely smart, and just be aware of that. And the second example is that I'm also told that what you say on social media, the posts you like, and what you forward are permanent stamps of you. And this I was not aware of. And they can be easily found even after you've deleted and cleaned up your account, because once it's out there, likes, posts, comments, it's there forever. Now, that's something else to research, and I learned about this through the example of a lady who had applied to become a peace negotiator. She's a very successful lawyer, mediator, and she had applied to be a peace negotiator, and she was disqualified. And she was disqualified because when she was 18, and in those days Facebook had just come about, she had made comments and expressed her views and liked posts, that reflected a bias on global issues. But then since then she's grown up, and she's been well educated, and she's so well qualified. But they said, for this position you need to have no biases. And so what she put out at the age of 18, including just likes, were dug up and presented and said, you're unbiased. And there you go. I mean, you're biased, there you go. So again, that was something new I learned, and as I was looking at the message of the man in the mist, and I was looking at the robust filter, I just thought I would mention these two to you as a side point. And all my comments just now are of what we put out. But what about what we retain in our consciousness? That's even more dangerous. So let's apply a very sharp filter on what information we internalize. Most of what we see or read is biased one way or the other to suit the agenda of whoever is putting out that information. This is common sense. It's a major industry, and it's also a tactic of war, it's a tactic of business, public opinion management. So everything we get is not exactly what it is, and we need to just be careful about that. Hence, we need to be very discerning. That's my point. And protect our consciousness from sliding into the negative zone. If I bombard you with enough negativity, you will slide into the negative zone. If you slide in the negative zone, I slide in the negative zone, everybody slides. Our mass consciousness is negative, fearful. We want to now turn that around. We want to stop that. And with all the negativity that we may be taking on, worst case scenario, we also develop unhealthy attitudes that are anti-pluralistic. And pluralism is our fundamental strength. So let us not be influenced to lose it. Again, be very discerning about what information we take in. And that's where applying that robust filter comes in. This brings us to the second pillar, which is the moral compass. Now, the events of the current turbulent times globally, and I'm saying all over the world, they are placing an ever-increasing challenge to our humanistic values and ethics. We see, read, and hear about things that often go against the grain of our common beliefs and values, day in and day out, happening all over the world. Most of us expect that we as a humanity, with long-standing structures and governances, will innately do the right thing always. Now we need to upgrade this expectation to make it more realistic. Rather than expect others to uphold and deliver our values, we should aim to achieve this ourselves, starting with individually and followed by collectively. In this regard, we may be well served by reverting to the ethics of our faith and beliefs and projecting more vigorously the moral compass that we derive from them. This will help us enrich and empower our consciousness whilst positively motivating others. So this is very important. Let's go back and let's use our moral compass of our faith and beliefs, whatever those are, because they're timeless and they're solid. And the fundamental ethic of all religions and belief systems stems from the simple words, I am you, you are me, and together we are everything. I am you, you are me, and together we are everything. Let's base our consciousness on this premise, and it will help us shift towards a very healthy and positive direction. That's the second pillar from the words of the man in the mist. Then we come to pillar number 3, which is called the forward filter. Now, what is the forward filter? So, as our degree of discretion and protection of our individual consciousness grows, we should take steps to positively influence our collective human consciousness. We should be contributing positively to it. Now, we can start by applying a forward filter on all the information we share with our friends and loved ones. We need to apply a filter there too. Let's not automatically forward information we receive like we normally do, because this is how we can unknowingly spread negativity, toxicity, and falsehoods. And I'm not saying anything new here. We all know it, but still do it. So let's be careful, because our forward button is like a trigger of a gun. We need to consciously weed out toxic and negative precepts, and this way we will help enhance the quality of what we expose others to. So that's our own responsibility. And in addition, we should make special effort to bring out positive, enriching knowledge to light, which often lies buried in the midst of all the negativity. Let's start bringing that out through whatever we communicate. So we could be the agents of change of our consciousness and our collective consciousness. These are simple, practical things you and I and we can all do. And this is how we create a positive collective consciousness, or mass consciousness as it is commonly known. You can see how the simple words of the man in the mist, "You are consciousness that perceives the world for a short while, and you experience what you create." These words open up pillars and important calls to action. So his words are a wake-up call to us. This brings me to the fourth pillar, which is called nature. And my dear friends, nature offers deeply inspiring beauty and energy to the consciousness. I mean, when we are in nature, you will agree that we all feel differently. When you're in a garden, you're in front of the sea, you're in a place where you are at peace, wherever that may be. It could be on a park bench near your home. But when you are in nature and when you feel that peace, it opens something in us. And whilst a tree may be ordinary, a flower may be ordinary, being amidst them, we also sense the energy of their life. They bring us a lot of fertilization of energy. And sometimes the more time we spend in nature, we begin to get that extraordinary feeling, which is very hard to point out in words. But our mere presence there awakens up to the extraordinary in the ordinary. So I think it's very important that we should make spending time in nature a priority. And even, if you look at it from a health point of view, we all walk around, a very simple example, in shoes all the time, live in tall towers. We're not connected to the earth. But for example, 5 minutes of walking on the green grass without your shoes, or walking on soft soil. Imagine the whole science of reflexology is based on the foot. You get grounded, you get energized, just 5 minutes of your feet physically connecting with nature. Try it. Give yourself a few minutes every day and you'll see your health begin to improve. So let's give time to nature and make it a priority in 2024 and the years beyond. And we can spend time in any place that inspires us, and there's lots that exist all around us, near us. Even if we live in big cities, there's always nature around us. And we should also strive to discover new places through research and travels. And then we can also share these discoveries with others to encourage a collective mindset that is harmonious with nature. So that's pillar number 4. This brings me to pillar number 5. And pillar number 5 is called sustainability. And you all know the term sustainability, that which endures, that which will survive in the long term and in the short term, sustain. Now, whatever we think, say, and do must be based on foundations of sustainability, be it in our relationships and interactions with others, or our homes, or our planet as a whole. So with respect to sustainable relationships and interactions, they come from a mindset of fairness, compassion, and a healthy balance between giving and taking, as well as listening and speaking. Listen more than you speak. These are all things that give us more sustainable relationships because our relationships are more two-way. And these are just some practical examples. Do look into this further and build your own model for achieving sustainable relationships and interactions. Now, sustainability of our homes and the planet comes from, for example, number 1, making responsible spending choices that discourage environmentally damaging practices and unnecessary depletion of our natural resources. Each one of us can exercise a great deal of control by rewarding enterprises that respect nature and penalizing those that don't. So your dollars, my dollars, can be the most powerful tool for creating change. And realigning our consumption is also a key step forward towards sustainability. For example, let's wear our clothes for longer. A shirt is fine, why get a new one? Because to make that shirt takes resources, creates lots of pollution. It's got so many impacts. It's more than just a shirt you bought. There's a whole chain behind it that the planet is paid for. If it can wear it for another year, wear it longer. You are going to make everything more sustainable. Or replacing things only when necessary, if things are working. But now you think, oh, well, I want to just change it to a new model because. No, let it keep working, because these things, only making changes when necessary, can make a remarkable difference to sustainability. I mean, I've been in the environmental field all my career, and I can tell you that one of the biggest problems we face is the presence of microplastics in our environment. Now, what are microplastics? They are very, very fine plastics that are very difficult to separate. And where do they come from? They come from industries. And what industries? I mean, the textile and clothing industries and the tanneries, and they're huge, huge producers of microplastics. And they end up in our rivers, which end up in our oceans. Today, when you analyze our fish and you analyze our marine life, they are burdened with these microplastics. We as scientists, and I'm also part of panels, we are looking for solutions to this. But why create it in the first place? I mean, there are fashion stores we know of that put new styles and looks on their shelves every 7 days, and consumers lap them up. Why do we do that? Because imagine, to do that, to give you new styles every 7 days and make you look different, think of the amount of microplastics we are putting in. We no longer use just cotton. Nowadays, most of our fabrics are synthetic. That's where microplastics come from. And you can do your own research from other sources as well. But I'm just giving you one simple example. Think of the damage we're doing to our environment. It's permanent. By encouraging this practice, we reward enterprises with our money and our purchases. Now, I see a very healthy switch in much of our younger generation today, because as part of my work in microplastics, etc., I've been talking to a lot of young people, especially in their 30s and 40s. And it gives me much hope, because these guys look into everything they buy. They think conservation, recycle, zero waste, circular economy. They think of all these things. If I can buy something that's recycled, I'm not going to buy something that wasted new resources. They think circular economy, it's a big word for something very simple, which is whatever process you use should produce no waste, and it should have maximum reuse of resources. That's circular economy in a nutshell. But these guys look at it when they go buy running shoes. They look, oh, this is made of recycled material. They do their research and they choose their brands accordingly. So many of them go to just pure cotton, for example, and go away from synthetics that produce microplastic. So we are consumers, you and I. We can make all the difference by our own way of living, as well as where we put our dollars and who we reward and who we don't. And this is an essential mindset if we want our planet to survive and thrive. And I've just given you one example of microplastics. Please do your research, and you will find that a lot of things in your house and a lot of things you do are big net contributors of damage to the environment. If you absolutely have to have it, fine. If you don't absolutely have to have it, spare nature the penalization. Nature didn't deserve it. And if those promoting it, don't put your money there. If you spend less, you will force a habit change in business, because they always want our money. They're going to come back to us with things that are less damaging. This is how we create change. We can stand and protest all we want, won't work, but this is how we create sustainability. And this brings me finally to pillar number 6, which is balance. And balance is fundamental to our health and well-being. At a physical level, balancing our nutrition and providing adequate time for physical exercise and mental well-being, these are steps most of us are already doing. And those who are not doing so, it's a good time to start. Create that balance. But my dear friends, we can do more than this. We can dedicate additional time and effort towards our spiritual and material well-being. Historically, material well-being has taken far greater precedence than it deserves. Therefore, bearing in mind the words of the man in the mist, we need to engage our consciousness as actively as we can with the self. He was there. He says, I am self. You are a consciousness for a limited period of time. Then at a spiritual level, I, the consciousness, want to know you. I want to be you. And that's one of the reasons I'm here for this short period of time. Not to spend 50, 60, 70 years of my life angry about everything that came my way, do my pollution and leave. No, I'm here for greater purpose. And one of them is my spiritual growth. I, the short-term limited consciousness, want to know and be with the self. And this is how we achieve an enlightened state of being. So let us make spiritual growth a priority through daily meditation, contemplation, prayer, and exposure to higher spiritual knowledge via books, podcasts, webinars, etc., via what we are all doing just now. And then share your learning and experiences with others to enrich our collective consciousness. So these are 6 of the principal pillars that I was able to derive from the words of the man in the mist. You can derive more. Go back, think, contemplate. You may come up with more. And there are always more. Here he also reminds us that we experience what we create. We experience what we create, placing a tremendous responsibility on each one of us to project the best part of ourselves via our thoughts, actions, and communications. Remember, action is part of what we create, and so is inaction. Doing nothing is also part of what we create. So it's action and inaction both, and we are complicit, knowingly or unknowingly, in where our world is today. And with the positive changes, we will be complicit in making it better and much better for generations to follow. So I will leave you with that thought to ponder further. Action is part of what we create, and so is inaction. And I pray that you may all be blessed with a truly fulfilling 2024 and beyond, and that together we may take steps to make our world a far better place for generations to follow. So this is the insight I would have liked to share with you for 2024. The message of the man in the mist. Ponder it. Ponder some of the pillars I've shared with you. Take on board what resonates with you.